Rain is not just weather. In a survival scenario, rain is a predator. It hunts your body heat. It searches for a gap in your armor. And once you are wet, the countdown clock to a total system shutdown begins ticking much faster than you think. You can go 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, but in freezing rain, you might not last 3 hours before hypothermia forces a permanent game over. Most people think a shelter is just a pile of sticks and leaves. They are wrong. A shelter is a machine. It is an engine designed to manage thermodynamics and repel moisture. If you build it wrong, you are just building your own tomb. Today, I am downloading 10 high-level waterproofing protocols into your brain. We are going to cover the biology of leaves, the physics of water tension, and how to hack the thermodynamics of the ground. These are not tips, they are the laws of physics that separate the dry from the frozen. You need to stick with me until the very end because technique number 10 is the grand finale. It is called the cold bed scorch. It is the most effective way to heat a shelter, but it is also a lethal gamble. If you miscalculate the depth by even 1 inch, you will either wake up on fire or you won't wake up at all due to an invisible gas. Let's get to work. Number 1, the Shingle Biology. You are building a debris hut. You are piling branches and leaves onto your frame. You think more is better, but 10 minutes later, water is dripping onto your face. Why? Because you ignored the biology of the plant. The science of a leak. Every leaf and every pine bough is engineered by nature to channel water. Veins in leaves act like gutters. Needles on a pine branch act like microscopic slides. If you place a branch upside down, those natural channels will capture the water and funnel it directly into the center of your shelter. You are essentially creating a funnel for the rain to enter your sleeping zone. It creates a hydraulic bridge from the storm outside to your thermal layers inside. The pro solution: you must mimic the tree. When you place foliage on your roof, you follow the shingle protocol. The cut end of the branch, the stem, must always point up toward the ridge. The tips of the leaves or needles must point down toward the ground. You start from the bottom of the shelter and work your way up, layering them like tiles on a house. This ensures that the water hits the biological back of the leaf and runs off the tip, dropping to the next layer and eventually hitting the dirt, never penetrating your thermal sanctuary. Number 2, the 45-degree critical angle. You have a tarp or a natural roof. It looks solid, but in a heavy downpour, it starts to sag and then it leaks. You failed the geometry test. The physics of saturation. Water has weight. If your roof is too flat, gravity cannot pull the water off faster than the friction of the material holds it back. The water pulls. This pooling increases the hydrostatic pressure. Eventually, the water forces its way through the weave of the fabric or the gaps in your leaves. Worse, the weight of the water can cause a catastrophic structural failure, collapsing the shelter on top of you while you sleep, crushing your air pocket and soaking your insulation. The pro solution: you must respect the critical angle. Your shelter walls must be pitched steeper than 45 degrees. Ideally, you want 60 degrees. This creates a slope where gravity overpowers friction. The water hits the roof and immediately accelerates toward the ground. It doesn't have time to soak in. It doesn't have time to pool. It sheds instantly. The steep roof is a dry roof. If you can sit up in your shelter and the walls feel like they are closing in, you probably have the angle right. Number 3, the capillary break drip lines. You have a ridgeline rope strung between the trees holding up your tarp. It's pouring rain. Even though the tarp is waterproof, water is dripping right in the center of your shelter, soaking your sleeping bag. The visceral mechanics: this is called capillary action. Water has surface tension. It loves to cling to fibers. When rain hits the tree trunks or the exposed ends of your rope, it adheres to the cordage. It slowly walks down the rope, traveling under your tarp, defying gravity until it reaches the lowest point, which is usually right above your face, and drops. This Chinese water torture destroys your sleep quality, and in a survival situation, sleep deprivation creates a mental fog that leads to terminal errors. The pro solution: you need a capillary break. You must physically interrupt the path of the water. Go outside your shelter, about 6 inches from where the rope enters the tarp. Tie a small piece of string or a shoelace around the ridge line. Let the ends dangle down. Or carve a small notch in a stick and toggle it onto the rope. When the traveling water hits this obstacle, gravity takes over, and it drips off the string to the ground instead of traveling inside. It's a tiny detail that saves you from a wet, freezing night. And trust me, you want to stay dry. Because the heat source, number 10, is unforgiving if you make a mistake. Number 4, the button anchor. You have a sheet of plastic or a cheap poncho. It has no grommets metal rings. You need to tie it down tight to withstand the wind. You cut a hole to tie a rope. The structural failure. The moment you cut that hole, you have compromised the integrity of your shield. As soon as the wind kicks up, the stress concentrates on that cut. The plastic tears. The rift spreads like a zipper opening. Suddenly, your roof is flapping in the wind and a storm is pouring in. You have experienced a total equipment failure. The pro solution: never puncture your waterproofing. Use the button anchor. Find a smooth, round stone or a pinnacone. Place it underneath the plastic corner. Bunch the plastic around the stone. Then, take your cordage and tie a slip knot or a clove hitch around the neck of the plastic wrapped stone. Tighten it down. The stone acts as a button, holding the rope without ever piercing the material. This distributes the tension over a larger surface area, allowing you to crank the shelter tight enough to bounce a quarter off it without creating a single leak point. Number 5. The Sintering Clock. You are in deep snow. You pile up a massive amount of snow to build a Quincy snow dome. You immediately start digging it out to get out of the wind. The roof collapses on you. The thermodynamic process: snow crystals are like shards of glass. When you first pile them up, they are loose and unstable. If you dig too soon, there is no structural bond. The roof weighs tons. If it collapses while you are inside, you are trapped in a tomb of ice. The CO2 levels rise and you fade to black. The pro solution: you must respect the sintering time. When you disturb snow crystals by piling them, you create friction and kinetic energy. This slight heat causes the points of the crystals to sublimate and bond together. This process is called sintering. You must pile the snow and then wait exactly 90 minutes. Do not touch it. Let the physics work. After 90 minutes, that pile of loose powder transforms into a structural dome hard enough to walk on. Only then do you dig. Patience is not just a virtue, it is structural engineering. This patience is critical, but unlike the passive waiting here. Number 10 requires active, dangerous management. Number 6, the gutter hydraulics. You built your shelter on a slight slope. The roof is waterproof, but in the middle of the night, you wake up soaking wet from below. The hydrostatic threat. During a heavy storm, the ground cannot absorb water fast enough. The water becomes surface runoff. It flows downhill in sheets. If your shelter is in its path, your floor becomes a riverbed. Your body heat melts into the mud and your core temperature plummets. Being wet from below is just as lethal as being wet from above. The pro solution: you need to manage the hydraulics. Before you go to sleep, take a digging stick and carve a gutter or trench on the uphill side of your shelter. It should be a few inches deep. Curve the ends of the trench around the sides of your shelter, forming a U-shape or a chevron. This intercepts the sheet of water flowing down the hill and channels it around your sleeping area. Discharging it safely downhill, you are essentially building a moat to defend your thermal fortress. Number 7, the spruce floor elevation. You have a great roof and a gutter, but you lay your sleeping bag directly on the dirt. You wake up shivering violently. The conduction trap. The earth is infinite. It is a massive heat sink. It is denser than you, and it is colder than you. According to the laws of thermodynamics, heat always moves from hot to cold. The ground will suck the thermal energy out of your body via conduction faster. Then you can generate it, even if the ground looks dry. The hydrostatic pressure of your body weight will pull moisture up from the soil into your clothes. The pro solution: you must elevate. You need a spruce floor. Gather evergreen boughs, dry grass, or ferns. Do not just throw down a few branches. You need a mattress that is at least 8 inches thick when compressed. This creates a layer of dead air between you and the earth. This air gap breaks the conductive link. You are floating on trapped air. If you don't have a sleeping pad, this biological mattress is the only thing keeping your blood warm. Number 8, the bark tube harvest. You need a roof fast. Weaving thousands of leaves takes hours. You need a shortcut. You find a dead birch or elm tree. The sensory experience, trying to waterproof a shelter with small strips of bark, is a nightmare. There are too many seams. Every seam is a potential leak. Water finds the gap. You spend all night patching holes while cold. Water drips down your neck, draining your morale and your body temperature. The pro solution: look for a standing dead tree, specifically birch, elm, or basswood. If the tree is dead but the bark is intact, the wood inside has likely shrunk, loosening the bark. Cut a ring around the top and bottom of a clear section. Slice a vertical line down the middle. Peel the bark off in one massive, seamless cylinder. These bark tubes can be flattened out to create huge, waterproof shingles that are feet wide. 2 or 3 of these can roof an entire shelter in minutes with 0 seams. It is the ultimate resource harvest, but remember, nature gives and nature takes. The method in number 10 takes no prisoners if you mess it up. Number 9. The vapor barrier ceiling. Your roof is 100% waterproof. It rains all night. You wake up wet, but the roof didn't leak. The water came from you. The biological moisture. You exhale about a liter of water vapor every night just by breathing. In a small, cold shelter, that warm vapor hits the cold ceiling of your tarp or debris hut. It condenses instantly, turning back into liquid water. It freezes into frost or drips back down onto you. This is internal rain. You are soaking yourself with your own breath. The pro solution: install a vapor barrier or an inner liner. If you have a tarp, rig a second, lightweight layer like a trash bag or a space blanket, suspended a few inches below the main roof. This catches the condensation. Because it is on a slope, the water runs down this inner liner to the walls and drains into the ground, bypassing your sleeping bag. It acts like a drop ceiling, keeping your insulation dry and your system functioning. Number 10. The cold bed scorch. This is the grand finale. This is the technique you use when it is 20 below zero. You have no sleeping bag, and you need to survive the night. The concept: you are going to turn the earth itself into a radiator. You dig a trench the size of your body. You build a massive fire inside that trench and let it burn for hours. You want to drive the moisture out of the soil and heat the rocks and dirt to hundreds of degrees. The high-stakes trap. Here's where it gets dangerous. Once the fire burns down to coals, you must bury them. You cover the coals with at least 6 inches of soil. If you used a little soil, your body heat will ignite the roots or organic matter, and you will wake up on fire, or worse. The smoldering combustion will release carbon monoxide. This odorless gas binds to your red blood cells to 100 times faster than oxygen. You won't cough. You will just feel tired, close your eyes, and experience a terminal system shutdown. The pro solution: dig the trench deep. Burn the fire hot. When you bury the coals, pack the dirt down hard. Then, and this is critical, you wait. You must wait at least 30 to 60 minutes to ensure no steam or smoke is escaping. Test the ground with your hand. It should be warm, not hot. If it burns your hand, it will burn your biomass. If executed perfectly, the ground will radiate gentle heat for 8 hours, keeping you warm without a blanket. It is the ultimate comfort. The margin for error is 0. Survival is about managing moisture and heat. If you can stay dry, you can stay in the game. In the next video, we will dive deeper into fire friction methods. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Stay dry and stay safe.